Welcome to Restore 2022. We're looking at chapter 26 of Matthew's Gospel. Now, I must confess that when I read books, I like reading thrillers. And when I read this chapter through, from beginning to end, I was astonished that it read like a thriller. It has all the ingredients of criminality and betrayal and integrity and tragedy. All these ingredients are in this chapter. And it's a breathless chapter. You read through it, hardly catching your breath. It begins with Jesus pointing out to his disciples that in 2 days' time is the feast of the Passover, and he's going to be handed over and crucified. Everything that Jesus does in this chapter is coloured by that sense that his knowledge that he's about to die and how he's about to die. Everything is coloured. In Bethany, he's having lunch with a Pharisee, a friend, and while he's there, a woman comes in and anoints him with wonderful, rich perfume. And the disciples tell her off. How dare she waste all this stuff? But how does Jesus interpret it? He says, this woman has done a good thing. She's anointed me for my burial. It's in his mind all the time. And what's more, what she's done will be remembered through all the ages. And here I am today, remembering what she did as Jesus considered his burial. Then Judas goes off to betray Jesus. Perhaps, as it's been suggested, I think John says that he held the purse for the disciples and that he was a thief. And perhaps, so this is only me conjecturing, the waste or what the money could have been sold for, apparently to give to the poor, that he could have put in his pocket. Perhaps it's the last straw for him, I don't know. But he goes off and he agrees to sell Jesus to the authorities for 30 pieces of silver. He gets his money in the end. And then it comes to the Passover. It's arranged in a room and Jesus sits down, and again he tells him that his time is at hand. Even the Passover is coloured by his knowledge that he's about to die. He changes the whole significance of it. The Passover lamb, the blood that was put on the lintels and the crosspiece of the Israelis' door so that the angel of death would pass over, he changes that and puts himself in its place. This is my body. This is my blood. I am the lamb, he is saying in effect. He can't get it out of his mind. He's on the very verge of having to go through with it. I am the lamb whose blood covers you, so that the angel of death and judgment passes over you. I am the one. And then he foretells Peter's denial, which of course Peter adamantly refutes. In the garden, Jesus' mind is crowded with the knowledge of what is about to take place. Father, if it's possible, if this cup can pass by some other means, please, Lord, let it be. But not what I will, what you will. And so when Judas eventually arrives, Jesus is standing up, ready and steady and committed to what he knows is about to come to pass. Then you take into account the actions of the high priests and the scribes. Everything they do is illegal. Seeking false witnesses. They've even convened a midnight, dead of night council so that things can be done secretly and quickly, because since Jesus' triumphal entry a week previously, they're scared that Jesus of Jesus' popularity, and they want to get him out of the way quickly. They want to get him out of the way before the feast so that there's no uprising among the people. So everything they do is in haste, criminally. And when Jesus is brought before them and they can't find any witnesses to agree, they finally find witnesses who agree on something Jesus didn't say but is misinterpreted. And then a high priest says, "What do you have to say to this?" And Jesus doesn't say anything. So then he abjures him by the living God, something which Jesus cannot stay silent to. He has been made to swear before the living God. Are you the Christ, the Son of God? And what does he do? He quotes Daniel. Daniel, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds. And this is a passage which talks about him having everlasting dominion. And now the priests have no choice. They have Jesus has given himself into their hands. Blasphemy from their perspective, even though he was telling the truth. And so they let him out to be crucified. Now, a theme through this chapter, and a surprising theme perhaps, is that all this is just as God ordained. Jesus said, "The Son of Man goes as it is written of him." Isaiah had spoken about this. Then he says to his disciples, "You will all fall away from me, because it's written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered." And he's quoting Zechariah. This is just as God ordained it. In the garden, if possible, but it's not possible for this to cup to pass from him, because it is the will of the Lord. This must done. And even when he's arrested and somebody tries to protect him with a sword, he says, "Don't you realize I could call 12 legions of angels?" Do you know how many soldiers were in a legion? 6,000. He's saying that he could call on the Lord of hosts, and the Lord of hosts would send out 72,000 of his heavenly soldiers to protect him. But how then would the scripture be fulfilled? That it must be so. All of this is according to the will and the purpose of God. The chapter ends with seeming tragedy. Jesus has been condemned to death and is being led out to die. And Peter has denied Jesus 3 times, even with oaths. And as Jesus is led away, Peter is outside the gate weeping with self-loathing over his own cowardice. Tragedy all round. But don't worry. Jesus will be raised from the dead, and Peter will be restored, and he'll be the one who preaches on the day of Pentecost.